You guys, I know I'm not starting my interview like I always do, but can we just take a moment and look how beautiful this Palo Santo is burning? It's like got so much feminine energy in there. Like it's just so beautiful. So I want you to watch it. Take a breath, breathe it in, breathe it out, and let go of anything that you're struggling with today. Because that, my friend, is so beautiful of letting go. Oh, so beautiful. So welcome, you guys. Welcome to episode 27. We have part two with Nikisha today. I'm very, very excited to actually, I'm going to be listening to her more than I'm going to be asking questions today. So if you guys watched last week's episode, you got to find out a little bit about her, and we wanted to have a recording of her part two and like what else she wanted to share. And she just had an amazing experience with speaking in front of a suicide prevention last night in front of 200 people, and she got to break through to 200 people, tell her story, and then she got to experience like something that was given to her. And I just wanted to share that with you guys really quick because I think what she is doing is so powerful. And this is why we're here. We're trying to help you listen to any of our stories to help you learn to love yourself, and that we're here for you. And I just, for Nikisha to have an opportunity like that is so huge. And I just want to congratulate her for her bravery, her power, her feminine strength, and her energy, because she needs to be celebrated today. And Nikisha, we are celebrating you. So like seriously. So thank you for coming on and doing part two. And so what is our topic today, Nikisha?
Our topic is going to be choices over circumstance. Um, we can get real deep real quick. I do want to a song really quick. I don't know why, but I feel like it needs to be in the background, which is weird. Not when I do podcasts. I don't usually do that. Okay. But so let me switch you to my headphones.
I love this. No, I can't hear you. Wait.
What? Oh,
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Y'all got technical difficulties, guys, but that's because this is going to be very. Oh, I can't hear you again. I can't hear you again. Yeah, no, nothing. I'm sorry, you guys. While she is figuring that out, I am going to talk about, what I'm grateful for today. Like, I'm really grateful. I actually met an amazing woman today that like has her own self practice of taking care of all human beings with any medical things without dealing with the stupid insurance of this country. And she's such a beautiful person. And I'm so grateful that like my vibration brought me to her. And I'm grateful to have Nikisha back on again, of course, talking about what we're going to talk about today. And I'm just grateful that like I woke up to just an amazing day. So I'm just super grateful to be here and continue to help you love yourself. I'm all about it. Yeah. And so, do we have your audio? Is it working? No, it's not working. No. Start journaling what you're thankful for today, you guys, right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yay!
Yes. Sometimes I really feel like, I know you guys are had to watch this whole thing that we just did. I feel like sometimes when the message is going to be powerful, stuff like that happens. And I want you to see that this kind of stuff happens. I'm not going to cut it out of the video. Like this is
No.
stuff. This is real life.
Yeah, it's real life and it's perfect.
It's perfect.
And apparently I told you, I hit every red light and it was like, you just need to slow down. So
Yeah,
maybe it was just to slow down.
give everybody a moment to breathe and, understand
Mm,
what they're thankful for today.
yes, I love
Okay.
it.
So we are going to talk about, what did you say? Observations and, oh my gosh,
Choices over circumstance.
choices over circumstances. I don't know why I keep like messing that word. Now I know some
Observations. Well, here's the thing, we
observations.
do learn by observation.
We do. We do. We
It's true.
absolutely. I mean, we learn so much by just like watching. I'm such a visual person anyways. Like observing is such like soul food for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm like a people watcher. Like I like to witness and then just like experience it and then dive in.
Yes. I love
Like I
that.
have, it's almost like I have to like test the waters by witnessing, and then I'm like, oh, okay, now I can do it.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. So go ahead and start off with what you want to say, honey.
Well, I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to tell my story and why it's important for me to have people understand choices over circumstance. Because, can you hear my dog barking, by the way?
It's okay. We got dogs too. It's fine.
I'm like, why is he chasing the other dog down here of all the places? He's like,
Just one of them
Mom.
days.
um, so basically, okay, I was born to two addictive parents. I'll
Right.
say that. Um, it's not like it's not like the I don't know what normal is, but to me, normal was drugs, abuse,
Right.
deception, lies, all of that stuff, right? And so I decided about when I was 7 years old that I wasn't going to be like the people that raised me. I just knew that something inside of me was different and I didn't know what it was.
Right.
Um, so that's basically where my journey starts. And sorry, it keeps going black and then white, black and white on the screen for me.
That's okay.
That's why I'm like, what's
Black
happening?
and white. Like this is so interesting.
Yes.
I'm loving this. I'm like, this is like, I think everything that's happening right now, all these like moments of like pause and quietness,
Yeah.
like people are just getting to observe us, you know,
Yes.
and then here
All the wild, all the messy, and we are perfectly here.
we are, we're observing.
Yes. Oh, we're observing. Cute. I'm loving that. That's gonna be our thing.
We're observing. We're observing all the time, and that's what was just like, so powerful listening to your message last week about like how you grew up with, drug addict parents and, walking into situations where you just thought it was going to be havoc and abuse and all this stuff because it was normal to you.
Yeah,
But apparently you figured this out while you were 7, but you were still working through all these things because it's a journey, right?
exactly. And the thing is I remember the moment I was sitting in foster care and I just remember thinking like when I'm a mom, this will never be my life. This
Wow.
will never be my life. And I've had some time to reflect the last couple of days of like, why is choice over circumstance so important to me? And it's because I have little beings of light looking at me all the time.
Right.
And I wasn't taught how to be a mom. I mean, a dad can't teach a daughter how to be a mom. That's just the reality. And I, it's really important to me to understand that, like, we were given these two parents who were also given these two parents who were also given these two parents who had no idea what the hell they were doing.
Right. Right.
And from there, it's just like a lot of compassion to see what happens when you choose into love versus choosing into anger. And a lot of people talk about the two wolves inside of you, the wolf of fear and the wolf of love. But mine is the wolf of anger because anger can destroy things or anger can ignite things. love can destroy things or love can ignite things.
Right.
And
Interesting.
so I see them as almost those little tiny beings or those little tiny, I always call it the tiny Keisha. Like the 7-year-old me will come out to play sometimes and I'm like, oh, she's so hurt. Like, let's love her, let's hold her. That's actually what this rock is like an inner child love.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's it's really interesting when you start to do the emotional work, the shadow work, the deeper things of like, why am I here and why do I do what I do?
Right. And I feel like
And
anybody, ask themselves those questions. You
yeah,
might not feel like you're worthy of anything, but you are, and you can, ask yourself these questions. And that's how you start the momentum of your own healing and your own journey, and listening to your inner child and looking at your inner child or your younger self and giving them space and letting them know that they're in a safe space and that you're okay.
yeah, and to heal. It's okay. I remember never feeling safe. I
Right.
remember I remember that being like the number one thing I was always looking for was safety.
Right.
But when
And
you don't know what safety feels like, you search for anything.
right. I was going to be like, it can go this way, or like all the bad ways, and some good.
Yeah. And some good. Yes, it can. And that's the thing is when you're when you look at my journey, I was born to drug addict parents. We got taken away by the state. We were
Wow.
in foster care. My dad fought for us, then my mom continued on her drug journey, right? And I have so much compassion for those that raise children now with an addict. But
Mhm.
from a little child's point of view, it's like, why can't I see my parent? Why can't I see my parent?
Right.
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 And when I went from asking the question of why can't I see my parent to my dad's keeping me safe, it really transitioned the way I felt about myself.
Right.
Because as a child, you really see things as like your own self worth.
Mhm.
And my inner teenager was that rage cage, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
that's like you can do inner child work and it's like soft and sensual and you're like, "Oh, I love you," and "Oh my gosh, you just needed to feel safe and loved and heard and valued and needed." But then you get to that teenager and you're like, "Wow, you were a really big freaking piece of crap. What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
And then you sit there and you're like, "Oh, she was just angry.
Yes.
She was just really, really mad that she didn't get X, Y, and Z." And it almost went to, I don't want to say victim mode because I always have forever been like, I'm not a victim, I'm a victor. So whatever battle is given to me, I will pursue, I will fight through it. But life happens and there are moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I'm here.
Did you feel like you were a victim in this journey? And like, when did you realize like I can't be the victim? Because a lot of people who watch this like do feel like they're a victim, and that can definitely put them in a negative path on their journey. So, did you feel like that, and how did you overcome being a victor?
So from about 13 to 17, I really dived into a relationship with God.
Mm.
Um, I had no idea that I had no idea who Jesus was, who God was. I had no idea, right? And I became a really popular girl in school. I was just really magnetic. And I had a friend who I've been friends with. This is so crazy to even talk about this. I just got a Christmas card from her and text her the other day and was like, I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for putting God in my life. Like, oh,
Right? Oh, this is so
but I remember hanging out with her. I was, we were on dance company together and my parents had just gotten divorced. Okay, not my parents, but I
right.
have two bonus moms, which
Right.
I am so grateful for. And one bonus mom raised me from 7 when I got out of foster care till I was 13. And then her and my dad separated. And in that separation is where I found God.
Yes.
And I remember walking in, I was getting popular, hanging out with these girls. and we went to church. And I remember walking in and I was like, who is that? Who is that? Because he was in my living room one night when I was 3 years old and my parents were fighting. And I know that he felt like I felt his comfort. I felt his love. Who is that?
Oh my
And
God.
that's where I really started seeking my relationship with my higher power. And so that was when I went from being a victim to a victor.
I don't even know what to say. That is so beautiful. That is, and that makes me so speechless because, some of you out there, like, if you don't believe in God, it's okay. Okay. Like, I think it's very, very, very important to believe in something that's bigger than you to help you take on your emotions, your feelings, your anger, your distraught, you being scared, being in fear. When you let it go to someone that's bigger than you, and if it's God, that's magnificent because he is so powerful and he's with you all the time. And he, when we're children, we see things a lot differently because we're open to everything. And these things are so real. And um, I've had a lot of those experiences. And so it just gives me chills because when people know how they can like open their minds and their hearts to that, you will see so much and feel so much and know that everything's going to be okay. And that's probably what you felt when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And like, I am going to be okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
find,
I just remember feeling really safe and warm. And then when I walked into that church, I was like, okay, I need to know who that was. Now, don't get me wrong. I ended up leaving religion when I was 20.
sure.
But for 7 years, it really gave me that like, you are not a victim of your circumstance. You are a victor of your choice. You get to choose. And I
Right.
have, like you said about your addictive family, like I have addicts in my family all the way down my lineage. And I just celebrated 10 years sobriety. Like, because it's not, yeah, like it's not, I'm not going to be a victim of my circumstance. I'm going to be a product of my choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's observing yourself to make a better choice.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it also, going back to what you said about having a relationship with something bigger than you, I think it became that relationship with like, when I stepped into forgiveness, when I stepped into love, when I stepped into those kind of higher vibrational feelings,
Right.
things that brought me comfort, things that brought me love, things that brought me safety, people, places, experiences started to just show up and intertwine with where I was at.
Right. And that's how energy works. It's just like God is energy or a higher power is energy. Energy is in everything and everything has energy. So use it. It's there
Yeah,
for you.
exactly. And we're not taught to tap into that. And that's what I get to change is like teaching that, allowing that,
Right.
putting myself and my relationship with my highest self first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest thing to put ourselves first. But if we don't, how are we going to give to everything that we want to do in our lives? So it's just so important that we are on the journey to love ourselves. I think this is what's going to be super huge in 2023 is self-love and like
Mm,
separating yourself to fully go on that journey, whether you have started, whether you're in the middle, whether you're at the end and you're going to continue to love yourself even more. Like separate yourself because a lot of hurt is in this world and it's going to continue to be. So if you separate yourself on the journey of self-love, like 2023 is going to be very, very, very powerful in that way. I really feel it. I feel it.
yeah. Well, and also placing yourself in relationship circumstances and places that you do feel loved. Not
Absolutely.
only do you like reaffirm how much you are capable of being loved, but that you are loved, right?
Absolutely.
Because
And
how many of us go back to our family? I mean, this is coming out after the holidays, but this will be perfect. Is how many of us went back to our family's house and reverted back to an emotional age that we left our family or that we felt unheard, unneeded, unwanted? And we all do it. Like that's just the reality.
You're right. I never even thought about that. I'm going to think about that with everything now. You know,
Yeah.
there's always like, shame. At least that's what I got from, certain family members, and just like you still feel that way. And it's like you want to be like, look, like I am here. I love myself. Like I am
Yeah.
doing great freaking things, and just be. But that's very true. And if you do that, think about that. I've never thought about that way before. Like I'm going to enter all holidays, birthdays, family get-togethers in a different light, because I
Yeah,
I am who I am.
exactly. And you deserve to be loved now. And
Absolutely.
it's so important to keep people around you that want to allow you to have a blank mural every time you level up, every time you transition.
Mhm.
Allow them to see you differently.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, so on this journey of like observing your life, I'm sure you had the church when it was there, and it was there for you when you needed it, right? And you outgrew it and realized God's outside of the box, like, right? So
Yep.
what was that journey like? And the people that came into your life, and experiences, so you can make these decisions to become ultimately free and loving yourself.
So, well, it goes back to that party that I went to with my husband, my
Oh,
husband.
yes.
And
The brawl
um
situation.
oh,
Or the you were thinking,
we love her.
love it.
It goes back to that. And that's where I was like, I had devoted like 7 years of my life to the LDS church. And when I got married, he was a return missionary. So I thought our life was going to be perfect, all this stuff, right? I
Right.
was still toxic. I was still abusive. I still had my shit.
Yeah.
So after 3 years of being in that space of like, this isn't normal, but this is normal, but this isn't normal, and I want this, right? Like it was a complete deconditioning of what I was, because I did have a relationship with God and I did have all of those higher frequency feelings, but it was only if I didn't have people in my life that made me feel loved. Like, so I worked at Wells Fargo and I had a boss and he changed my life.
Mm.
He created so much safety for me to just be me. And I remember one time I was crying at work. Like he had said something and men triggered me, obviously.
Right.
And so I went to run out of the branch and he just like stood there and he's like, you don't have to run. You can express what I hurt inside of you. So I know not to do it again. And I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I don't have to run away to cry and hide. Oh
Right.
my gosh, I don't have to isolate. I don't have to be alone in this. And I just remember from there, and he had like a strong testimony of the church and all this stuff. I remember like realizing that I felt closer to God with people that made me feel loved than I ever felt in a church where I felt judged.
Wow.
And so I just started realizing that at 22. I was like 21, 22. And from there, I really transitioned to going on hikes. That's where my weight loss journey started, is from him. He literally told me one
Wow.
day, he was like, you know, you can eat 6 meals a day and like gain so much muscle and stuff. And I was like, no, you can't. And he did it. Like he literally did it just to show me that it could happen. And that's where it all started for me. As I was like, oh my gosh, 6 meals a day, done. And that's where I got over my eating disorder, because my eating disorder came from a lack of control. That was
Right.
the one thing I can control, was my body and what was happening.
Right.
But where you go from being super anorexic to binging,
Yeah.
I went from 95 pounds to 206 pounds.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he jump started that like, I don't know, processing, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like core four was introduced to you and you didn't even know it. Like your
Yeah.
the relationships with the people around you, with yourself, power, which is your body, which was your boss from Wells Fargo, and purpose. You're going through all this mental changes and rediscovering yourself, and rewriting your narrative this whole time at a young age. You ever think
Yeah.
about that? And to your production, which is your business now, like that. I mean, just think about that for a minute. And it's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting to even think back to that space, right? Is like the core four and creating that change because it all starts within.
Yes. So you got on a journey of like taking care of yourself at this point with, your boss that inspired you. And when you take care of yourself the right way, guess what? You become more of a badass, and you
Yeah,
become more powerful because if you're like, I can do this, what else can I do?
exactly.
Where did you go from there?
Well, I started creating a relationship with nature. And I just remember the first time I saw a waterfall. Like, when you're little, you see a waterfall and you're like, oh, that's so pretty. That's so pretty. But like when something inside of you transitions, it's like, whoa, look at that waterfall. Like that is from Earth. That is what's happening right now. It is coming from like this magical place. And when I really started looking at life through magical eyes instead of hurtful eyes, that's when it transitioned. And that's where everything started downloading. And even like my mom passing away, I remember I was like, I just need to go to class today. And I sat through class for literally like my mom passed away on a Tuesday and I had class at 6 p.m. So like I was in drug court. So I didn't have like I don't know, my boss was like, you can have work off and like all this stuff. And I was like, all right, well then I'm gonna go sit in class because I don't want to fuck myself up. I
Yeah.
don't want to be the person that's like, okay, my mom died, so I'm gonna go do drugs or I'm gonna go drink. And like at that point I was sober, right? And so I was like, something has to change. And I was not very sober. Like I was sober April to October.
Okay.
So 6 months.
Mhm.
And I remember sitting in these classes, and every single class, the teacher had to announce why I was there. Nikisha's going through a really hard time today, and so she's going to sit in on our class. And then people would be like, well, what's going on? Because obviously it's rehab. So I didn't get the chance to like sit in my shit and like be a victim. And I remember this is when like I felt my mom. I remember because I do mediumship, and
Yep.
so I felt my mom and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And 2 months later, I was graduated early from a 3-year program and I
Wow.
was only in it for 10 months. And I was like, so like not offended, but I was like, oh my gosh, nobody's here to celebrate me. Like, I didn't even know I was graduating today.
Yeah.
And I
Crazy.
remember I like took my certificate to my dad and he's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, I didn't know. I just walked in and they called me up with the graduates.
Wow.
And I remember the judge, before he handed me my certificate, he was like, I know you'll never relapse again because you just went through the hardest moment of your life and
Wow.
you didn't do anything but come to class. I'm so proud of you.
And it
And I
was,
was like,
yeah. And it was like your mom, because she couldn't give you what she knew you needed when she was alive, going through all that turmoil. And some people
yeah,
just get out of it. It's just reality. And so she gave you the support, through her angel eyes to give to
yeah,
you that strength. And I think that's a beautiful gift. And that's when I talk about like having God outside of the box with waterfalls and nature and putting your toes in the soil and understanding that like energy is also with souls that are not here, souls that have passed. They are still with us. And that energy is so powerful as long as you accept to hear it and as long as you accept to feel it. It will help guide
yeah.
you.
Well, and everybody's heard of 3D and 5D,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
your angels resonate in 90 and 70. So right now we're in an earthly body,
Yeah.
but we're all the ocean and we're just a drop in the ocean. Like we're all connected, we're all loved, we're all this, but somehow this body reminds us that we're not. And if we can just remember that we're a drop in the ocean of life, everything changes.
Everything changes. So after you knew that you were going to be sober forever, what was like your next goal with
I
still,
didn't know I was going to be sober forever.
right? Well, I mean, right. I guess that's true. You don't know. You don't know.
Well, no, but here's the thing. I didn't believe what he said. It came down to my self-talk. After that, I really honed into my self-talk.
Mhm.
And then I got pregnant with my son 4 years later. I went through a divorce, and that was hell.
Yeah.
And I always say that divorces are like deaths of the life that you thought you were going to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's why divorce is so hard, and that's why so much anger and resentment is held there, is because the person doesn't die. The
Right.
life you thought you were going to have with that person dies.
Right. And it is
And
hard. That's gotta
yeah,
be.
and it was hard. And I remember the day. So my husband asked me for a divorce through a text message. He had already told everybody we were getting divorced. So that was beautiful. And I'm so grateful for him. Also, thank you for showing me that my normal wasn't normal and that I would never accept that kind of treatment in a relationship.
Exactly.
So I had done like soul work. I had started to feel my mom. I had started to do all of these things that were like more in touch with my highest self and my guides, right? So like I started doing things almost like, the closet weirdo way. Like I was like doing ritualistic things and like talking to my mom and talking to my guides, but like I wouldn't share that with anybody. Does that make sense? And I ended up pregnant with Costin, and he changed my life in every aspect. Like the Jiffy Lube guy that told me, everything you think, say, and feel goes straight through that placenta to that baby. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a mom and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing because I was not taught how to be a mom.
Right.
And I started reading a book called Strong Mom, Strong Sons. And that before he was even born. And that taught me how important a mom and a dad is in a child. And it made me sit with myself in every development age of like, that's why you feel this way. That's why you feel this way. You were deprived of X, Y, and Z, or you were given over. Like my dad would overcompensate for things that my mom couldn't do. Right. And like, bless his soul, because I'm a mom now and I co-parent so freaking well. I couldn't imagine having to save my kids from their other parent. Like I know that I'm just as important as he is in our children's lives.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's
So cool that if you can get to an amazing co-parenting friendship, because it is really important to the kids, because they can see that like, hey, they're not together anymore. They don't want to be together anymore, but they respect each other, and they still love us and they love us together, and then it shows like the power of strength and love and being kind to one another, and there's so many books, and I'm so glad, there are books available. And if you guys are struggling with that, read something like that, write that down. Because there's so many books available. I read books when I was younger. I remember I cannot find it on anywhere because I can't remember what it is. I just remember it was pink and blue and it was written by this way older woman. And it was just talking about like the when you're growing up, the daughter that is growing up without having like a mom that is really utilizing like everything that she can, she's just only utilizing what she knows and growing up feeling so unloved. And I read this book and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I finally understood what my mom was going through, even though she's still going through it, but I understood. And that's where it was, I wish my mom was transparent. I still wish she was transparent and said everything, because if she said everything, she would have been healing, right? And we would have had a good relationship, which I still hold space for. But that book was so incredible to me because I understood why I was being treated a certain way and that I had the ability and power to change the past of the narrative that I was grown up to believe into something else that's more loving.
Yeah. You
right?
took the lens off. You were able to shift that lens.
Yeah. I
And
think
that's what I think it's so important about compassion and forgiveness.
yes. Oh my gosh.
Because you don't have to say, like, my mom is justified in doing X, Y, and Z, but you can say, I have a lot of compassion for what my mom went through and what she put me through. And
Absolutely.
vice versa. My dad, the other day, we had this amazing conversation. And I was just like, wow, I have so much compassion for him. He was a single parent of 2 kids. There are days where I'm like, come get your freaking kids. Like, I can't imagine not
Right.
having that space to rely on the other person that's supposed to love your kids unconditionally, and they have chosen differently because they're also hurting. And
Yeah.
so it's like this transition of like, it's okay to have compassion. It's okay to change the perception that sometimes people are just hurt people. And
Abs-
that's what they're doing. And that also comes with healed people are going to help heal people.
yes.
If it wasn't for that boss at Wells Fargo, I wouldn't have had that space to understand that it's okay to cry and
Right.
say, hey, my feelings are actually hurt.
Right. It's amazing, right? Like you're doing all this work and you don't even know it, but you do know it. And then when you're doing the work, people are going to come into your life because you're doing the work to make you grow even more. And they might fall off once you grow, or they're going to grow with you. And that's why your friends change throughout, the growth periods of your life, because you want to have people around you that are growing just as much as you are. And
Oh
it's
my
just,
gosh, I love that you just said that.
well, it's so true.
I
It's
always say that we are rockets and we're supposed to be shooting up to the highest level of dimensions, the highest frequencies, the highest emotions. So, like euphoria, love, progress, like all of that, like passion, purpose, right? And I always say, like, there's rockets, they have rocket launchers. The launchers break off once they get to a certain space. And you can only grow so far with people that aren't supposed to grow with you. And
absolutely.
some people are here for a season and some people are here for a reason.
Yes. And it's so
And
true.
I think,
So true.
sorry, I'm like, I think as our human selves, we get stuck on the forever with somebody, but like it could be just the lessons that they give forever.
Yeah.
It could just be the perception of, hey, like that happened and now I see it differently. And I really have compassion and love for that person at afar.
I was just gonna say that, you have and you almost have to forgive yourself for like letting go, because as human beings, you feel sad that you're not close to these people anymore. So compassion and forgiveness is a part of growth when you separate yourself from people that were in your life for a long time or for a season, or and I mean, there's so many people that have been in my path of life that if I didn't have those people, these family members, my best friend's parents, like, just here you go. Here's a bucket of love. Just everywhere I went, I had this bucket of love, whether I recognized it or not. And, you know, as I've gotten older, like, damn, I've had so much buckets of love from all these people and this energetic way of coming to me. And now I just want to be a bucket of love for everybody else.
Right? Exactly. It's because we know what it's like to not feel that love, right?
Yes.
We know
Yes.
what it's like to feel that isolation. I always say, if we focused on changing illness to wellness by changing I to we would have community.
Ooh, girl. Beautiful. It's so it's so freaking true. And it's like, this is why people don't want to do this shit, right? Because it's hard ass work. If it was easy to love yourself, if it was easy to like draw people and things to you of who you want to become, everyone would be doing that, right? But we want everyone to do that, but it's all it is hard work and
Well,
commit.
and the developmental ages of having projections thrown onto us, like it's so important to have people in your life before 11 that uplift you, that create that existence of positivity. And that's why I really love talking to the youth right now. Like,
Oh, yeah.
those kids need the inspiration. They need that. They are at that age that they won't have to heal from their childhood if we speak to them in a way that they are the most magnificent, brilliant, amazing human beings, because we never got that opportunity.
And
Our
that's,
adults didn't say that to us.
yeah. And it's not taught in educational schools either,
No.
you know?
Well,
And
and
it's so beautiful.
that's the thing, is like, we can start healing now, and what we heal, our younger generations don't have to. And I think that that's what's so important of us being the cycle breakers, being the ones that say, hey, I have compassion for you, I love you, but this gets to change with
Yeah.
me. This starts with me and this ends with me.
Yeah. And I just, there's people out there, you know, my boyfriend brought his 10-year-old daughter to Jen and they did breath work, his 10-year-old, you know what I mean? And she got to experience like what self-love is, and like, and just reflecting and doing breath work at 10 years old, you know?
Yeah.
And as parents, that we get to have this opportunity to show something like that, or, you know, take them places of, you know, where you are speaking at, and just like, here it is, you know, this is what we want you to start programming to your little minds, so you can program into bigger things as you get older, you know?
Yeah. And they don't have to suffer. Like, we all suffered enough.
Right.
It's time to stop suffering and step into thriving.
Yeah. And that self-love, baby, you know, just that self-love. And it's just, it's really, really hard work. And, you know, there's going to be days when, you know, you're not going to feel like that. You know, the November and part of December, I was not doing good, you know, mentally, and just, everything was just kind of like, why is this happening to me? But then, and through all of that, all these really hard, uncomfortable conversations with family members, with loved ones, like, all came to a head to bring me out of like, everything is going to be okay.
Yep.
And like, I
Exactly.
love myself. I'm happy with what I have in my life and everything that I've done and want to still continue to do, but I'm still going to have these days. And so are you. And it's okay, because when we're in the darkness is where we learn the most. And when
Exactly.
you know
And
that,
if you don't tread through the darkness, you can't step into the light.
right.
And if you do, the light is just, how do I say that? When you go deep, you grow deep. So that's like the thing that people don't understand, is like, when you're getting deep with yourself and you're asking those questions and you're wanting to reprogram and you're wanting to release, it's not just about love, it's about self-awareness, self-worth, because
So,
we weren't taught how to have those.
yeah, we weren't.
It's
We just
it's
weren't.
not participating in those relationships, those things that bring you down and keep you at an emotional age that you're no longer at.
Yeah. And I think that's why parents have even, I mean, I think parents have a much harder time raising children in social media societies and all this stuff, but we
Mhm.
actually have more power than our parents did and our grandparents did, because they were not taught this at all.
Exactly.
They were taught to just stay in the dark the whole time, because
Or just sit down and shut up. You made a commitment. Don't change your commitment.
absolutely, absolutely. So, and you have gone through so much darkness to where you've gotten today, like so much darkness, but it's made you into who you are today, and getting to have the opportunity to speak in front of 200 people last night. I mean, think about
Yeah.
that. You know,
And
it's
it's
just,
the 5 minutes. It's the 5 minutes. Your 5 minutes matters. You can say so much in 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And you could save a life in 5 minutes.
Yeah, you really can. You really can. You can meditate for 5 minutes. You can pray for 5 minutes. You can stretch for 5 minutes,
Breathe.
breathe for 5 minutes. So if we can do all these things in 5 minutes, we can speak and we can hold each other accountable. We can give
And
each,
there's so much power in our voice. Our voice is the most powerful thing. There's so much, and I want to go back to the darkness. There's so much message in your mess. And people don't realize that. They just think that they're going to sit in the darkness forever. And if you're feeling like that, know that where you focus your attention and where you learn your lessons is where you're going to grow the most.
Mhm.
So you can sit there and you can say, I'm in the darkness, or you can say, what is this supposed to teach me?
Mhm.
Where can I show up differently? Where can I choose differently? Because it all comes down to releasing those projections, releasing those things that were placed upon us and saying, this is actually who I am, and letting those things crumble. And that's the scary part, is releasing who you used to be and stepping into who you're meant to be.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. And if it wasn't for the darkness teaching us those things, like, how are we going to get to where we're going? Because if it was just the light all the time, which we're going to shine our lights as bright as like millions of lighthouses put together, right?
Yes.
But we have to have dark to make light. We have to have growth. We have to understand the darkness to make light. And
You can't see the stars without the night.
you can't. You can't, and that's how you want to shine in the darkest of darkest black holes. You
Exactly.
know,
Black holes. Yes.
black holes, like that is where we are going to find our power the most, because we have to reflect on
Exactly.
our journey and changing and being okay So when you continued this journey of like learning how to be a mom to your son, how did things change for you as a woman, as who you are, and as a mother?
So when I became a mom, that was interesting because he came on my 5-year sobriety date. And that was just like a testament that I was on the right path. I was going and I was creating the right things. And then really it just came down to realizing, well, he triggered me a lot, like a lot. And then realizing that he wasn't the trigger, it was the inner me that was having the hard time. So once I transitioned from he was the problem to inside, there was something inside of me that was dysregulated, and learning how to regulate my system, that's where the growth really began, is really understanding and being able to shift that perspective. I got burnt in the fire and I was like, I love this. This is great, because I was trying so hard to transition my inner dialogue that everything was shitty, right? And like it really came down to changing that inner dialogue and sitting in the moments of discomfort with him. And from that, like, starting a business is uncomfortable. I started a business. I knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And for 18 months, I paid somebody else to raise my son. And I was miserable. I
Right.
hated my job. I hated everything about it. And that was the only part in my life that I hated. And when I realized that I could take control over the places in my life that I didn't like or I didn't resonate with anymore, that's where the true healing began. And then really tapping into like that angel space. Once my mom passed away, I could feel her all the time. I would see her, I would experience things. My brother, bless his soul, but he called me in a binge one day and he was getting beat up. And I remember dropping to my knees and I'm like, if all of this work is real, if all of this shit is real, I need a red physical sign now. And I literally walked back to my desk and my boss came walking down with Cheez-Its, a red Gatorade, and a bright red shirt on. And he goes, here. And he walks away. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
this is the deep stuff. This is the stuff where you really get real with yourself. And that's where my transition of lens changed to life can be magical. Life can be hard, but it also can be a lesson. And really just transitioning that inner dialogue allowed me to step into freedom, allowed me to step into passion, allowed me to step into my light. When my little sister attempted to commit suicide, and truly, whoa, okay, wait. Last night we vowed to say an unsuccessful attempt at suicide that I'm so grateful for.
Mm.
Um, woo, um, that really, really changed me to understand that I get to express myself and I get to love those outside of me, because inner love is amazing, but it can never pour over into your relationship bucket.
Yeah.
And those relationships get to be nurtured as well. You can't just self love, self love, self love, and then hope that all your relationships are going to be great. Those relationships also take work, just as your inner relationship takes work. And when I started seeing motherhood as a relationship, that's where it all changed for me.
Wow. And I hope all you moms out there are really taking this to heart if you're struggling, because that is a very true experience to have with yourself, to check in with yourself, to like change that, like, oh my gosh, I have to be a mom and I have to do this. Like, I get to be a mom, I get to be in this relationship, and I get to bring joy to myself as I do onto my children.
Yeah, and choose into,
Right.
because I used to think that my mom didn't want to be a mom,
Right. Oh,
but
you
she
understand.
didn't want to choose into a relationship that wasn't going to serve her.
Yeah.
And when I realized that the reason that she allowed my bonus mom to be my mom was purely out of love and protecting me from her addiction, it really placed me in a space of like, okay, we can forgive people and we can love people and we can have so much compassion for what they've gone through.
Wow.
Because just as I want somebody to hold space for me, I get to hold space for them too.
Absolutely.
And how
Absolutely.
many times do we sit there and we're like, I don't feel safe and I don't feel loved in this relationship, but we're also not loving ourselves enough to speak up on the things that don't work for us.
Yeah.
And that's where it really transitioned for me about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where I said, no more playing small. I'm here to love big. I'm here to live big. I am a big energy. I'm a big light. I've gone through so much darkness. I'm going to see myself as this being of light. And I was camping with my ex's family and I like ran into the gazebo and I was like, boom. And I was like, that's what 200 pounds of greatness feels like. And I just remember cracking up so hard because I really truly believed how great I was. Like it
Mhm.
was like the first time in 30 years that I was like, wow, you are actually really amazing.
Oh. And it's continued ever since, right? And all these
Yeah.
things have happened, and it's just such a journey. And this is what Nikisha is talking about, you guys. Like, it's a long work, is going to be for a while, if you're starting from scratch. Like, she's been doing all this work for her whole life, and you are doing this
Yeah.
life. But when you come to the realization of where you need to shift and these transitions, if you listen to this interview again, she talked about shifts and transitions throughout this whole thing, and recognizing those shifts and being a part of those shifts of like self-love, and knowing that, like, I am going to be a badass, or I am a badass right now, And so I think that's just such an amazing way to look at all the transitions in your life, and to be aware, and to forgive.
And be a product of your choices over your circumstance. I I have had really crappy things happen in my life, and even in the last 3 years, and I never, and maybe I shouldn't say never because that's like a really obsolete or absolute, but like I don't usually go to, "Oh my gosh, why is this happening to me?" I'm like, "Okay, what can we learn? What do we need to do next? Where's the choice? What choice do I have right now to regulate me so that this situation doesn't change my perception of life?"
Wow. I need to do better at that sometimes, because I used to be way worse, but I'm just like, why? But I'm like, oh, wait, there's a lesson. There's always a lesson. Like, this is like kind of a running joke in my mind, would be like, okay, I still need to learn some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have
What's
to
that
laugh in the
today?
darkness, right? I got to laugh in the darkness, be like, huh, yep, another lesson down, another tool in my tool belt. Right.
Right. And that's the other thing is every lesson gives you a tool. gives you an opportunity for the next situation to present itself and ask you, are you going to evolve or are you going to repeat? And you can choose. You
Yeah.
get to choose that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that should be written on a sticky note too. Are you going to evolve? Or are you going to repeat? And just see that every single day, because when you're going to be struggling with things, look at those things, remind yourself like to ask that question to yourself, to your mind, to your heart and your soul. And it will, the light will show for you if you want it to, that is so freaking beautiful. Your energy is just like God's work. I really feel that way.
Oh, my heart.
I do. I feel like everything you've gone through and like what you say to your audience, like on social media and to, people that you talked to last night, like God is working through you, honey. And it's just such a beautiful thing to see, your movement and, to be sharing that with others. It's so beautiful. And I'm sure
Thank you.
that your son sees that, because our little observers are always observing, you guys. So we have to be
Okay. Do you know who Elenium is? I'm just going to share this with you.
okay.
So I've been doing The World is a Better Place Because You Exist for 5 years. That's basically his whole life, right? And like I've enrolled him. He does sticky notes. Like he, even some days when I like forget, he'll like run back to the car. We forgot sticky notes. I'm like to grab them, right? So like he's involved and it's so cute and it's my favorite. So the other night we're like jamming out and he goes, Mom. And he like, of course I turn it down. And he goes, I think I'm going to be a DJ so that when the beat drops like it does for Elenium, the whole crowd will say, the world is a better place because you exist. And I just sobbed. I was like, you have dreams of this too. Like, you're 6. This is going to be so cool.
And that is a
So
choice. It's a choice how to be a better parent, a better person, a better like family member, to hold your family in a circle of love. You know what I mean? Like
and they want to help. Like
they do.
little kids want to help. They want to feel involved. And our little observers, like we call them, they witness everything. They notice when you talk about yourself badly. I remember one day it still kind of bothers me because he still says it, but I was like, I have a pumpkin belly. And so anytime he eats unhealthy, he'll be like, oh, my belly is a pumpkin today. And I'm like, no, it's not. But like, also we get to talk better to our body. So if I ever say anything, he'll be like, Mom, what's 5 things we love about our body?
Well, also pumpkin is really, really strong, right? And it has lines. It can be some kind of ab work.
I love you. Where's the lesson? Where's the lesson?
Right? But I mean, that's just such a beauty of like transparency, right? Because your kids always know everything. And that's why I've always been so transparent, excuse me, with my siblings. I don't have children, but I've always been extremely, extremely transparent with my siblings. They know everything. I mean, they're not really like that, but that's okay. I'm going to still be like that. My partner, Daniel, he's extremely transparent with his kids. His kids are involved in everything. And I love how he loves being a dad. And I love how his kids love him as a dad. It's so beautiful and unique because I've never dated anybody who's a dad like that. And it's so beautiful. And we need to be that for our kids. We need to be strong and we need to involve them for everything because they know. They look at you and they know.
And if they see you do hard things, they gain resiliency. They witness you have resiliency. And then they want to have it. Yesterday we went skiing and my son was crying on the mountain. And I like took his skis off and I put him next to him and I was like, "Kate, we are on the mountain. We are here to learn. Are you willing to learn? Or do you want to keep crying because you're not the best? You have to be willing to suck at something in order to grow." And this cute little guy behind me, he was like, "That's the American mom we need," and put his hand on my back. And I was like, all right. And literally the next run, Costin didn't fall one time. I'm like, bro, see, you are resilient. You can do the hard things. Like cry a little, feel a little, and then let's get up and let's learn and grow again.
Right. If we don't mess up, we're never going to understand the lesson.
And if we're not okay sucking at something, we're never going to become an expert.
Absolutely. I've messed up so many. I mean, girl, that list is still mess up on things, right? You know, but that is the beautiful thing about being a female, or you know, a male or a human being. Like, we get to recognize when we mess up and be like, I know that lesson right away, or I don't know,
Yeah.
and you have to work through it.
Or my favorite is when you are reacting differently to a situation that presents itself again to you, and you're like, whoa, after the fact. And you're like, I grew. I knew one way, and then I reacted a different, or I acted a different way.
Yeah.
And that's part of that resiliency. That's part of learning to grow and adapt and change.
Right. And that's what we all need to do, you guys. We need to understand that growth is all sorts of things that we can pick and choose. And, you know, we got to choose the right path every single time, whether it's hard or not, you know, because that is part of growth, and it's part of expansion. You know, it's part of being successful and loving everything to inspire others to do the same around you. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's all about. So are you
Exactly.
speaking anywhere soon again, or?
So I will be having my own event on January 10th. That's going to be
Ooh,
fun. Just going to be like a little sound bath and meditation. But in January, I'm starting meditation Mondays.
good. So
So,
I'm going to put her Instagram in the link, and I want you guys to follow her and do these meditation Mondays with her. Okay. And
yes.
if you can get involved in her classes in January or whatever she's doing, follow her. You know, she's someone that you want to have around in your life. Like, I mean, I want to have her in my life all the time because energy is so powerful. And you
Thank
feel
you.
that way about somebody. That's how I feel about Sean Whalen, you know. That's why I'm in his coaching group. And it took me a while, because every time his coaching group was available, I would go up and then I would delete it. And then I would have nightmares. Brittany, you need to be in this goddamn group. You need to be in this fucking powerful, savage
Community.
It was crazy, because I really felt like Sean, you know, God speaks through Sean. I really do
Yeah.
feel that way. I feel that way about you. And I feel that way with all these people that have come into my life. So what I mean by that, my point is, if anyone in on my channel speaks to you that way, follow them, do everything that they do, listen to everything that they say, and make your life better. And I
And
promise,
allow them to transition with you.
yes, follow her, you guys. If she resonates with you, if you feel this energy through our conversation today, follow her and be in this world, because you make it a better place, just like she talks about all the time.
Yes, because we need you. We need your heart, your soul, your light, your mess, your message. We need all of you.
Yes, yes, we do. I love that. That is so beautiful. I mean, I could just end it right there, but is there anything else that you want to share, and, you know, end this amazing call? Anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, love yourself in all of the dimensions that yourself shows up. Love your messy self, love your angry self, love all of yourself, and choose into situations that allow you to be your best self. Choose relationships that call you out on your shit so that you can grow. Sometimes we have blind spots and we don't know about them until the people that love us the most care about us to say, hey, this isn't working, and let's transition this. And
Yeah.
be open to growth and feedback.
Right. Because that part is uncomfortable, right? And it's also listening to your gut, but you got to get uncomfortable for the growth. And it's so hard to take our ego out of that, like being uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to be uncomfortable. Well, get uncomfortable.
Right? Get ready to be uncomfortable. Follow me if you want to get uncomfortable. Grow deep, because we heal deep, we grow deep.
I love that. I love this part too. I love this part too so much. And I love how this is going to be, you know, after your first episode with me. This was so powerful. And I hope you guys have gained one thing. If you guys have gained one thing, please post it in the comments, or message me on Instagram under Free Lady Co. Or message
Or message me and share Share it with us. We want to know.
We do want to know because we need you.
I heard this.
We're doing it. We're doing the right thing for you guys. We love you.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard this quote one time that you will never know the greatest thing you ever did. But if by God's chance you do, I hope you hear it without the wound that brought you there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So if we've impacted you, if we've inspired you, let us know because we deserve it, and you deserve to use your voice because your voice is your most powerful tool.
It really is. Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming back on here. And I hope to talk to you more in the future about all things. And if you ever want to come back on again, you, of course you can. And everyone, I
Thank
hope
you for having me.
yes. And I hope everyone had a great Christmas. And I strongly, 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 strongly advise, let's again be self-love 2023, and whatever you need, whatever help you need, reach out, use your voice, and we are going to be here on this journey with you guys. So let's do it together. So happy new year going into the new year, and let's go of things that didn't work in 2022. Let's bring things that did work in 2022 into 23, let go of what didn't, and let's become new and new in
Step forward.
self-love.
Yes.
So, well, you have a great night, girl. And
Thank you.
we'll
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.